Today, I wanted to discuss the effect that animal-based protein has versus plant-based protein in age-related muscle mass. I'm sure we all have that elderly person in our life who just looks very frail and they look very weak. And like you probably even have grandparents that fell before and they've ended up fracturing bones and having all these problems. And I have a great interest in the effect that animal-based protein and plant-based protein has in this, because I do have grandparents that have had a lot of issues with this forming. We find that healthy muscle mass has like these very thin layer fatty tissue around the muscles and a lot of muscle around that individual bone, which allows for a lot of strength forming and a lot of very beneficial things. But we see in patients that have sarcopenia, which is tend to be a disease that's found in people that are a lot older, um, and it's what happens is when they stop working out and they stop eating protein, they start developing this thick layers of fatty tissue around the muscle, and their muscle ends up shrinking exponentially. This can be very dangerous, as anytime you're falling, it can cause increased chances of fractures and all these problems that just are not beneficial. Um, these two graphs, the one at the top shows a high percent chance and a low percent chance of sarcopenia forming. So we see in the one on the top left, we see lean mass percentage. And as your lean mass percentage increases, it actually decreases your chance of forming sarcopenia. So this is, and then if you look at the other one on the top right, it shows your fat mass percentage, and it's the opposite, where as your fat mass percentage decreases, you also have a lower chance of forming sarcopenia. So this first off shows that what you really want to target to prevent yourself and from people that you love forming sarcopenia is you want to increase your chances of getting lean muscle mass and decrease your chances of forming this fat mass. So in order to do that, I mean, we know like working out and stuff like that can be very beneficial. And on the graph on the bottom, this shows a few different studies, and they found that people that ate increased amount of proteins, they had a higher chance of not forming sarcopenia, while people who had more protein formed a higher chance of forming sarcopenia. These animal-based proteins are often what we consider as like dense protein foods, and a lot of people think this is like the way to go in order to have a higher enjoyment of like or a higher protein density. And you think that that's like the only way to go about building muscle mass is by eating animal-based proteins. But there's also these plant-based proteins, which tends to be a lot more of a newer trend in society today. Is these plant-based proteins that are packed with protein, and they can be extremely beneficial as well to the formation of or the not forming sarcopenia. So the question is there a significant difference? Should you really be getting animal-based protein, which a lot of people harp on, or is plant-based protein essentially just as effective in preventing this? So this graph right here shows different protein sources and their protein density amino acid source, or like basically how good the protein is the best way to look at it. So like these are scores that are given based on how effective the protein is. And we see like, yeah, milk and beef and stuff like that tends to be at the top, but we also see soy protein isolate, whey protein isolate. We also see chickpeas, stuff like that is also very efficient amino acid sources. Um, and what I've tended to found in these graphs is that yes, the animal-based proteins, they're all pretty much very consistently very good for you. And a lot of plant-based proteins can be just as effective as all those all those animal-based proteins. But we do see some plant-based proteins which can be a lot less effective. So there's a wider range in the plant-based realm, but they can still all be very effective. In this study, they used one control group that they had no intervention at all, and then they had two intervention groups, one where they used protein supplementation and one where they used isolated protein supplementation. And what they ended up finding, and they tested it based on hand grip strength and how much that increased over time. And what they found is that skeletal muscle mass increased significantly in both groups, intervention one and intervention two. And the real problem was that it decreased significantly in the control group. And it shows just like the importance of having um, either type of protein, but the importance of protein in general. And we actually, this was a study that found it was done in men, and they really found no adverse effects of either intervention group. My recommendations are, if you really are focused on reducing your chances of getting sarcopenia or anyone else you know or anyone that has it, a big thing is just working out. Working out is such a crucial part of it that I didn't really get into because it's not really what I'm focusing on, but it is a crucial part is working out. Any weight bearing exercise is really helpful in the day to day. But we also find that muscle building protein can be found in all shapes and sizes, and it can be animal, it can be vegan, it can be any type of way you want it to be. And it's a very kind of anything can kind of work for you, but it is very helpful to know that both of them are very effective, which I didn't know if that was going to be the case coming in. And if you really want to avoid sarcopenia, it really doesn't matter what kind of protein you eat as long as you're eating high levels of protein on the day to day.